Hello student, welcome to today's session. Our today's session it is related to our NCERT book class 8 science, and today we will discuss 10th chapter, that is reaching the age of adolescence. So here we start. Reaching the age of adolescence. So in the previous chapter we have studied about the reproduction, how animal reproduce, okay, how human being reproduce. So we have also discussed about the different reproductive organs in males, reproductive organs in females, and what we have studied, that after a certain age, only after a certain age human can reproduce. So why it is like that, and what is the role of different hormones, okay, the role of different hormones in the different changes in the human body. So all these things we will discuss here in our chapter, that is reaching the age of adolescence. So first of all we will discuss what this adolescence is. Okay, so when a baby take birth, in that stage he is in the infancy stage, okay, so till the age of 2. Then from the age, that is age 3, that age it is known as the childhood, okay, till the age 3, up to the age you can see that 3 up to 3 to 8, that age it is known as childhood. Then after 8, after the age of 9 and 10, the different changes occurs in the human body. So after that, that age, that stage, you can also say it as the teenagers. We also say them as a teenagers. So that age, it is known as the adolescence. Okay. So what happens in this age? In this age, what happens? The different changes, different sudden changes are there. Different growths are there, different changes are there in the body part of the child. Now, in that condition, he is not longer as a child, and nor you can say that it is an adult. So what the name is given to it, that is the teenagers. So when we discuss about the growing up, the growing of any individual, so growing up, it is a natural process. Okay, it is a time period of life when the body, it undergoes the different changes, when it undergoes the different changes, and it leads to the reproductive maturity. Okay, when it leads to the reproductive maturity, at that point it is known as adolescence. Okay, so from which age this adolescence begin? It begins with the age of 11, approx 11, and it lasts up to the age 18 or 19. And this time period, it is also known as teen or adolescent, or it is also called as teenagers. What they are called as? Teenagers. But this time period, we are saying that from 11 to 18 years or 19 years. So this time period, it varies from person to person. It always varies from person to person. So what happens in this time period? In this time period, different changes, several changes undergoes in human body. Okay, and this also called as the onset of the puberty. Okay, also called as the onset of the puberty. Means in adolescence, different changes take place. But when the complete changes occur and when the individual is able to reproduce, okay, to give the birth to the new individual, that is known as the puberty. Okay, so what we have discussed in this page, that animals as well as human beings both can reproduce only after a certain age. Okay, after a certain age they can reproduce, and different hormones are there which help them so that they are capable of reproduction. Okay, so the time period, which time period? When the body, it leads to the reproductive maturity. When it leads to the reproductive maturity and some changes undergoes, that time period it known as the adolescence. Okay, and the teenage, and in that time period, the individual, you can say them as adolescents, or teenagers. Okay, by both name you can call them. And what puberty is? Puberty is, it is the time period in life when the animals and human beings, they are capable of reproduction. Okay, in puberty they are capable of reproduction. So this both things are related to the adolescence and puberty. Now, our next topic is what the changes undergoes in an individual during the time of the puberty. Okay, what are the changes? So first one, there is first change, it is the increase in the height. First change, it is the increase in the height. So we are seeing there that there is a sudden increase in the height of the individual. Okay, so why there is a sudden change? Because in this time the bones become longer. Okay, there is a sudden change in the sudden growth in the bones of the arms as well as the legs. So this time the person become tall. So when we summarize it, what we get from the different data, that when a individual is 8 years old, okay, if that is a boy, it gain 72% of his actual height. And if that individual is a girl, then she gains 77% of the its complete height, actual its complete growth. Okay, and up to the age of 17, the growth is complete in the girls. Approximate, it is complete in the girls. It is 100%. And at the age of 18, the growth is 100% in boys. So what we find from here, that girls comparative to the boys, they are taller in the initial ages, but afterwards the boys also gain their complete height. So we can also calculate the full height. How we can, this formula is given to us. For example, one more example is given to us, that a boy, if he is 9 years old and 120 centimeter tall, then at the end of the growth of the period, he is likely to be, what we will write, what is his height right now. Okay, if it is 120, so just find it out at the age of 9. If boy child is there, he will attain 75% of a gain. So 120 divided by 75, and you have to multiply it by 100. So what the data we will find when we calculate it, it is, when you find it out, it is 160 centimeter. So means that boy, it will be 160 centimeter tall at the age of the 18. So by this formula we will calculate the full height. Okay, so what we find, that there is increase in the height. Okay, there is increase in the height. So why there is increase in the height? Because the bones of the legs and arm of a person, they start to grow and they become taller and taller in this age. The increase in the height, it occurs until the age of 18 in both boys and girls. Up to the age of 18, there will be increase in the height. In some individual, the increase in the height, it may take a little bit of time, but up to the age of 18, there is a complete increase in the height. And we also observe that the girls, they grow faster than the boys. Initially, the girls grow faster than the boys. So all these things, we will find it out. Now see, when we talk about the growth, okay, the growing of the bones, the growing of the muscles, in that stage, there should also the nourishment. Okay, we also need the nutrition, we also need the proper diet, that is the balanced diet, okay, for the proper growth. In this age, in the age of adolescence, for the teenagers, the diet should be proper, so that the growth, the increase in the height, the growth in the body, it is proper. Now, second change, what we observe, that is the change in the shape of the body. Okay, there is a drastic change in the shape of the body of the boys and girls. So what type of changes we observe? That in this time period, in the time period of puberty, the body shape, it start to change. The body shape, it start change. And boys, in boys generally, there is change in the chest. Okay, their chest, their shoulders, they become wider. Okay, they become wider, both chest as well as the shoulder. And in girls, the area below the waist, it become wider. So there is the change in the boys as well as in the girls, but the change are different. Okay, because there is the muscle growth in the boys. If we compare then the girls, the growth of the muscle in the boy is comparatively higher than the girls. Okay, so what we have studied, that the height increase, there is the change in the shape of the body, and the next, that is the change in the voice. Change in the voice. So regarding the voice box and the larynx, we know it very well that there is a voice box. But what happens in the boys? The voice box is developed larger in comparative to the girls. Okay, comparative to the girls, in boys, the voice box, it becomes larger. It develops larger. So it is also called as Adam's apple. Just see the diagram. See the diagram here in thought. Okay. So why it is like that? Because it developed. Okay, it developed, and we can easily see them. So why it is like that? Because there is a growth in it. Okay, the development in the voice box and highlights. So what happens? There is a change in the voice of the, especially you say that change in the voice of the boys. Okay, because the voice box of the larynx is developed in the boys. Okay, it seems as the enlarged, when you see the thought, that is in the enlarged condition. Okay, and it is also termed as the Adam's apple. It is also the important question. Okay, important notes, it is, it may come in the exam to define the Adam's apple. In that case, you will forget that what is Adam's apple. So the enlarged voice box, it is termed as Adam's apple. That is the reason, this is the only reason, that the voice of the boys, it becomes the hoarse. Okay, the you say me a few of the time, you say ki iski आवाज बहुत भारी है, in like that. Okay, but in the girls, the larynx, it is not visible because it is smaller in size. Comparative to the boys, in girls it is smaller in size. So their voice become normal. Okay, the pitch of their voice is not as the boys. The third change, the next change that occurs in the body, it is the increased sweat and oil. Okay, it is the increased sweat and oil. So increased sweat and oil production, we know there are several glands are there. Okay, the sweat glands are there, the sebacous glands are there, it is also known as the oil glands. So they present in our bodies, and what happens during the puberty age, it starts secreting more oil and sweat. Okay, it always secrete oil, it always secrete that sweat, but at the age of puberty it starts secreting more oil, it starts secreting more sweat. So that is the reason, at that time, at that adolescent, the teenager, they got the pimples, on their face. The reason is only the excess secretion from these glands. That is the reason. Only because of the excess secretion, the teenagers, though, they got pimples on their face. This is also the stage, it is also the symptom of that they are in the developing stage, they are in the stage of the teenagers. Okay, now next topic, the next change in the body, it is the development of the sex organs. Okay, in the previous chapter, we have studied regarding the reproductive organs, the male reproductive organs as well as the female reproductive organs. Okay, we studied about the testes, we studied about the sperms, and ovaries, that the testes, it reproduces the sperms, and the ovaries, the eggs are there. Okay, so when it start produce sperms, so in male the sperm production begins, okay, when the reproductive organs develop completely. Okay, the time when the reproductive organs, they develop completely, what happens at that time? The in males the sperm production begins. Okay, and in females what happens? The size of the ovary increase, as well as it start releasing the eggs. Okay, it start releasing the eggs. And when, what which stage does it happens? When the development of the sex organs is, when the sex organs are completely developed, in that stage. Okay, and one more change is there during this adolescence period. It is the individual, it becomes, it reach the at the mental maturity, the emotional maturity, okay, intellectual maturity, their way of thinking, it get changed, because during this age the brain has the maximum learning power. It has the power of learning, it is the maximum learning power. Okay, so the way of thinking of individual, it also change. Okay, they are also self conscious, they also feel little bit of uncomfortable, they feel little bit of insecure. Why? Because there are several changes in the body, different changes are there. So however all these changes are normal, but we are not that the teenagers, they don't know about all these changes, they are curious about it. Okay, they feel little bit of uncomfortable when they are between some others, they become uncomfortable, they become insecure. So different changes are there, different you can say it as the emotional changes are there, they become self-conscious. So all these changes, the emotional changes, intellectual changes, different changes are there, because why? In this time period of the adolescence. Okay, so these all are the changes which we have talked about. What those changes are: increase in the height, change in the body shape, and we also discuss about the change in the voice. Okay, then development of the sex organs, then secretion of that oil and sweat and all, then the mental and emotional maturity. So these all are the changes in the time period of the adolescence. Okay, so in our next topic we will discuss about the secondary sexual characters and other things, the role of the hormones and all in this time period of adolescence. Till then, revise this chapter, and for any queries you can message me. Thank you.